Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video.
Kicked out my girlfriend after a night of drinking with guys. A 5-year girlfriend, 24 female, of mine, 24 male, was kicked out of the house for not arriving home until 9:30 a.m. after an evening of partying. Is it a little harsh? Afternoon all, this is my first post on this forum, so please correct me if I'm doing anything incorrectly. During the previous 5 years, my girlfriend and I have been together as lovers. After work on a Friday, she went out with her girlfriend 27 female and refused to ask me along. We've just recently relocated to this city, but she already has a network of old acquaintances and family in place. I wasn't delighted about it since, in my home country, she was generally invited along with my friends when I went out with them. Anyway, she isn't me, and I presume that everyone does things differently than me. When I came with my buddies, she skillfully avoided me for the whole night by claiming that she'd be at one spot and then another when I arrived with them. In the event that I've had a few too many drinks, I'm a lightweight, I'm downright miserable and go home, while she stays on with her friends, as has happened in the past. In contrast to the last time, this time she remains out until around 9:30 a.m. before returning home and apologizing profusely, and she stayed on the couch at the residence of her friend's boyfriend. Sorry, I don't know his age, but he's a guy. Although her story seems plausible, I'm not convinced. Why would she get out of the cab and go for a third wheel with her friend and boyfriend? From a logical standpoint, I suppose she would have had a reason to stroll up to the apartment and fall asleep, maybe a person she was interested in, or perhaps this entire story is just a front for what she really was getting up to. No matter how you look at it, this story is riddled with holes the size of a colander. I ejected her from our apartment, and she'd spent the previous 2 nights with her parents at a hotel nearby. That she couldn't just walk all over me and get away with it was something I informed her. Before she left, she said that she would never longer go out without me and that she would abstain from alcohol for a period of many months if it was absolutely necessary. I agreed, but then I began to question about the nature of the connection. As a consequence, I requested that she leave the premises. Now I miss her and am unsure whether to welcome her back or whether doing so would send the wrong message. I also wonder if I was too harsh in my criticism. To what extent should I maintain my stance in the hopes that she would eventually return, or should I risk losing her by being inconsiderately, or should I give up and allow her to return home? My head is a complete mess, and my career is suffering as a result. It's only been 2 days, and all I know is that I miss her, but she messed up, and I'm not sure whether or not to believe her version of events. I'd want to say something. To give you some background, there was an incident a few months ago where she went to the beach at night with her ex-boyfriend, 27M, and this same female friend from work drinks, who we'll call Susie for the sake of anonymity, and returned with no pants on, only underwear, and his shirt wrapped around her waist after I had begged her to come home for hours over the phone and seriously considered committing suicide, called my mother in Australia and asked her to wire me some flight money, and she refused. After I arrived at the airport the next day and received a phone call from my girlfriend, she informed me that she did not feel I should go and that she believed our relationship had a future. However, her clothes were already ripped when I arrived, which is why she claimed to have abandoned them, but this is still unacceptable behavior. They were engaged in a bizarre love triangle situation in college, in which the ex-boyfriend cheated on my girlfriend with this Susie, who seemed to be implicated in all of our relationship problems, but now they're almost best friends. After my ex told me he thought he was a better match for her and Susie told me my girlfriend was confused and didn't know what she wanted, I decided to leave the evening. When I'm intoxicated, I have a tendency to leave, so I was disappointed when she didn't pursue me that time. My understanding is that we were out with her ex for some reason, but she pledged not to see him again in order to save our relationship, and as far as I know, she has been true to her word. Susie, by the way, is lovely and is believed to be easygoing, which has resulted in us reaching a better point in our relationship, or so I thought. She is out of work and will continue to live with her parents indefinitely. Even though I agree that she's a lot of fun to hang out with, I'm not sure why my girlfriend continues to hang out with her. Even though I'm not sure whether or not it makes a difference. My girlfriend is a stunning woman who has been begging me to propose for quite some time. My weight has increased slightly since we moved here, currently 96 kilograms, previously 85 kilograms with slightly less muscle, but I'm making progress in losing the excess fat I've gained, and I've landed a decent job here. Any advice would be greatly appreciated, but please be gentle because I'm in a semi-vulnerable position right now and haven't spoken to anyone about it yet, so I figured it'd be safer to share online anonymously. Story 2. My wife has been lying and cheating on me for months even after catching her in the lie. In order to get started, my wife and I have been married for around 9 months. After dating for approximately a year and a half, we decided to be married. We've been living together in Florida for at least a year throughout that time period. She notified me around Valentine's Day this year that she wanted a break since she wasn't happy in the relationship, and we both agreed that she should take one. It wasn't until a few days later that I realized she was talking to someone when I discovered a text on her phone from someone she referred to as Bae. When I confronted her about it, she giggled and said that it was merely the name of a student she didn't recognize, so she just filed it away as such. A week later, I spotted texts from someone calling themselves Swiss Bae on her phone, and they all had hearts on them. Later I found out it was the same guy she was lying about. She said it was a male she met on Snapchat and didn't even care for at the time. Then she asked me to go because she needed some space after we had some back and forth about these messages and our relationship. I caught her contacting the guy again just before I left, and I was able to read some of the text messages she sent. I ultimately convinced her to show me the chat, and it was then that I learned that she and him were even, and she admitted to me that she had sent him a photo of herself nude. I hurriedly packed my bags and flew to Maryland to see my uncle for a few days. I was able to keep in contact with my wife while I was in the country, and she expressed her desire to resolve the situation and work things out. I continued questioning her about Swiss Bae, and she just said that she wasn't interested in him and only wanted me to return to her. I knew from her communications that he was heading to Florida and wanted to meet up with her, so I inquired as to whether she had met up with him, and she replied that she had not met up with him. I inquired as to whether or not she had ever seen him, and she stated that she had never seen him. After nearly 2 months, she eventually persuaded me to return and work on things. When I returned, she assured me she was done with him, but I observed she was still behaving strangely and sneakily, as if she was hiding something from me. She went for a jog one day, and when I arrived to her laptop, I saw she was still signed into Facebook. I peeked in on a conversation between her and a close friend. She practically gave herself away in the conversation, saying she really likes Swiss Bae and wants him to ask her out, and that she doesn't believe she loves me anymore and wants to dump me. When she returned home, I questioned her about it, and she began to weep, telling me how she was wrong to lie to me, and when I told her I was through and ready to go, she told me she realized she wanted to be with me and didn't want him. That next day, I discovered she had Skyped him many times. So I decided to give her another opportunity, until a week later when I discovered she was still talking to him and Skyping him. I pleaded with her to show me the texts they exchanged, but she erased them this time. I was ready to depart at this time, so I got a plane ticket back to my uncle's house to stay until I could obtain my own apartment. She sobbed and begged me not to go, but I did. During my stopover, I decided to give her one more shot, so I booked an Airbnb nearby to stay and cool down for a couple of days. When I returned, I learned through a friend of hers that she had been hanging out with the man while I was gone, the first time in second. When I challenged her about it, she denied it until I gave her the evidence that her friends had shown me. She hasn't acknowledged to all her friends have told me to this day, and now she simply tries to make me feel bad for making her dislike her friends. But her friends informed me she was the one who screwed up by including them in it when she should have simply given me the truth from the start.